Welcome back for another book talk video. It's Fiction Friday, and with the beginning of a new school year, I want to talk about an amazing book, The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. This book is often read in middle schools or high schools, though I know these days the old school canon is being tossed out the window. English teachers everywhere are trashing the old curriculum. We've got new curriculum, new ideas. We've got more book clubs in class and more student choice for what they read. So there's a chance that a lot of people have not read The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton, and I highly recommend it. Doesn't matter what age you are. Though it is one of the most challenged, banned books, controversial books, because the book is full of gang violence, teenagers drinking and smoking, talking about sex, all kinds of those controversial things that sometimes parents and adults get worried about. Though I know I read it in, I want to say, either 6th or 7th grade, part of the middle school curriculum back in the day, so there are a lot of people who think it's appropriate, at least for that age, to be able to read. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that there's a great film version based on the book. It's a fascinating film because there are a lot of actors in that when they were younger, before they really became bigger names and became famous. I used to joke that it was the only film with Tom Cruise in which he was not the star of the film, one of the lead main characters. Though that's not true anymore, thanks to films like Tropic Thunder, which, believe it or not, Tom Cruise is in that movie. Might surprise you. But back to The Outsiders. This is the book that has the famous line, "Stay golden, pony boy." It's got a lot of great stuff in there. The two social groups that are at odds with one another are the teenagers who are part of the working class. They're called the greasers. And then you also have the more upper class teenagers. Back in the 1960s, I guess they didn't call them preps or preppy. Instead, they called them socials. And so people pronounce the shorthand a couple different ways. Some people say it's soc or socias, and other people just say socks. I believe the film went with socias and not socks. But when you read it on the page, it's SOCS. So I can understand why a lot of people would say socks as they're reading the novel. The film adaptation was produced in 1983. That was the year. Apparently there was a television series that was made in 1990, but I haven't seen that. It's an interesting idea that instead of redoing the film, it was a continuation of the story, which is a different way to do an adaptation, kind of like Westworld as a TV series is kind of doing its own story, though they did reimagine from the beginning. Oh, The Outsiders is so good. It is definitely a book that I feel is a good coming-of-age story. I feel like people should read this book to get a sense of that division in the social classes, to get a sense of how the family and the friendships worked. And there are spoiler things that I would say to you, but I don't give spoilers in my videos, so I'll just say it's very heart-touching, and there are some very powerful, dramatic things that happen in the story involving the group of people that the main character centered around. He is one of the working class, one of the greasers, but he and his friends like to flirt with the girls who are part of the socials group, the more preppy upper class people. So it is interesting how that conflict happens, but that leads to a lot of the guys from that group having all the more reason to get into fights and altercations with the greasers, which also creates difficulty. And if you wonder, well, why is it such a big deal that people talk about the gang violence? It does get really violent. The gangs do square off against each other, and people are seriously injured and potentially maybe killed. You need to read the book to find out. It's worth a read. Trust me when I say that. And even if you read this book back in the day when you were younger, it could be fun as an adult many years later to read it again and reflect on those messages and see if you learn something different from it the second time that you read it. Alright, that's it for today's book talk. Hope I've piqued your interest in reading or revisiting The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. Every day is a good day for book talk. Peace.